Orion's belt points to the brightest star in the sky, Sirius. If one looks at the Hopi Mesas as the stars of Orion's belt, they also point to an important location, Chaco Canyon. But why Orion? And could it be merely a coincidence that this constellation pattern has been found at other important sites around the world, and always with the belt pointing toward a place of significance? Ancient astronaut theorists have discovered the constellation of Orion lining up with the Mayan complexes along the Street of the Dead in Mexico City. And here, Orion's belt points to Cholula, the largest pyramid in the world. They also find it at the Giza pyramids in Egypt, with the belt pointing toward the city of Heliopolis, a place of worship for ancient Egyptians. And why were they tracking Orion and Sirius?
Cutting through the wall are a number of precision-made shafts. Egyptologists claim they're ventilation shafts, air conditioning for the dead monarch. A perfect alignment to Orion and the god Osiris.
To the ancient Egyptian, Orion was Osiris, the high god of resurrection.
Just as the king's chamber is sited at Osiris, the shaft from the queen's chamber leads straight to his consort, the goddess Isis.
The religion of Jesus was the religion of Isis and Osiris and their child, Horus. Many of the early figurations of the Virgin Mary sitting with baby Jesus on her lap are actually based on Isis statues, where Isis is holding Pharaoh, now her symbolic son.
Cutting through the wall are a number of precision-made shafts. Egyptologists claim they're ventilation shafts, air conditioning for the dead monarch.
But there's no way these could have been ventilation shafts. The detail of design is far too complicated. They rise on the incline all the way out of the pyramid. They must have had a much higher purpose.
But what kind of purpose? Barville and Hancock began to believe the 5,000-year-old monuments were built to send a message to future generations. The investigators wanted to decipher that message and turned to astronomy for clues.
Scholars say that the ancient Egyptians did not have a high knowledge of astronomy. But here is evidence of their fascination and sophisticated knowledge of the sky. Look at the zodiac constellations: Leo, Taurus, Pisces, and here the constellation of Orion and the star Sirius.
Barville was convinced the shaft from the king's chamber was targeted at the constellation of Orion. He set out to prove it on the computer.
Obviously, they didn't go to all this trouble just for fun. To the ancient Egyptian, Orion was Osiris, the high god of resurrection. Now, this is a reconstruction of the sky in 2500 BC. And let's see what happens to Orion's belt as it crosses the north-south line.
A perfect alignment to Orion and the god Osiris.
Now, to the left of Orion, and here is the star Sirius. To the ancient Egyptians, it was the star of Isis, the consort of Osiris. And I was amazed to discover this.
Just as the king's chamber is sited at Osiris, the shaft from the queen's chamber leads straight to his consort, the goddess Isis. Osiris and Isis were central to the ancient Egyptians' religion. The coming of these gods, thousands of years before the beginning of history, heralded the birth of Egypt. This was what the Egyptians called the beginning of time, when the god shaped the river and the land and brought civilization and its bounty to the Nile Valley. But then Osiris was killed by his brother, and the land was plunged into violence and terror. Isis gathered her husband's body and bound it in linen. Then she changed into a bird and resurrected Osiris to a new life among the stars. Together they ruled over the night skies for eternity, with Osiris the god of resurrection. Resurrection was also the goal of Egypt's pharaohs.
Now, when a pharaoh died, his body was mummified and prepared like Osiris, and his soul was ready to ascend to the sky. His earthly mission fulfilled, and the dead king would depart to the sky. In effect, what we have here is a reenactment of the resurrection myth of Osiris told in stellar terms.
Bavel believes the purpose of the pyramid shafts was to send the pharaoh's soul to its place next to Osiris, and he's found compelling support.
I'm taking you inside the Pyramid of Unas, one of the kings who immediately followed the 4th dynasty. And here are the oldest religious writings in history. These are the pyramid texts, and they hold the key to the mystery of the pyramids. The meaning of these texts were nearly forgotten, because Egyptologists saw in them mainly a sun religion. But this isn't a religion of the day and the living. This is a religion of the night and of the dead. These texts repeatedly tell us that the king becomes a star in the kingdom of Osiris, in the constellation of Orion. One of these texts says, "O king, you are a companion of Orion." And another text says, "May you traverse the winding waterway, the Milky Way, and may you go to the place where Orion is." Everything here attests to a grand unified plan, a master plan. And yet there's something very perplexing about this plan. We have 3 pyramids, 2 of which are of almost identical size and are set along a diagonal line. And yet here's the curious thing. The 3rd pyramid is much smaller and is offset to the left of this diagonal line. Why? What were the pyramid builders trying to do?
Bavel wondered if the alignment of the pyramids on the ground might be clues pointing to a larger purpose.
The problem had been nagging me for years, and on a night like this, sitting in the desert with a friend of mine, he was telling me how the star Sirius would rise, and then he pointed in the sky and showed me the belt of Orion right above. And he said, "You notice how the 3 stars run in a row, but at the top star, the smaller star, is slightly offset to the left." And suddenly I had it.
Bavel had realized the pyramids might be a terrestrial map of Orion's belt, but not as it would have looked in the skies in 2450 BC when the pyramids were built. Interestingly, the position of the stars in the sky doesn't stay the same century after century. When viewed from Earth, the constellations appear to move, a phenomenon called precession, caused by the wobbling of the Earth on its axis. The movement progresses at a snail's pace, about 1 degree over a human lifetime.
Egyptologists and students of hieroglyphics ignore precession, but without it, certain problems simply cannot be solved, because it is precession that is the key that will unlock the mysteries of the pyramids.
Precession appears as a change in altitude of the stars. From the moment Orion rises from its starting position 11 degrees above the horizon until the time it returns takes 26,000 years. The pyramid's alignment with Orion's belt was close, but not exact. The Nile corresponded to the Milky Way and the pyramids to Orion, but neither was perfectly matched with their position in 2500 BC. Bauval looked to other time periods.
Now let's look at the three stars in Orion's belt in relation to the Milky Way. Now in order to get a perfect match with the pyramids on the ground, the sky needs to be rotated slightly anti-clockwise. This means going back in time, 3000 BC, 4000 BC, 5000 BC.
The computer follows Orion back over the millennia of its precessional cycle.
$7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, and in 10,500 BC, that's when we get the perfect match.
It's absolutely amazing.
Well, the whole arrangement freezes the time of 10,500 BC.
The pyramid builders made their terrestrial map to reflect Orion as it looked, and only as it looked, in 10,500 BC. But why? Hancock has a theory he knows sounds incredible. He likes to speculate that the idea of the pyramids was inherited from another culture, one that existed in 10,500 BC. That culture disappeared, but somehow their advanced knowledge of architecture, mathematics, and science was passed down through the ages. With that knowledge, the Egyptians of 2500 BC built the pyramids. The monuments Hancock suggests are part of a legacy from a lost civilization.
We're not claiming that the pyramids are 12,500 years old. What we're saying is that the pyramids speak of that very distant date. There's no doubt in my mind that the Egyptians were the inheritors of an ancient knowledge and wisdom. It's absurd to suggest, as Egyptologists do, that these monuments were the creation of the infancy of a civilization. There's a huge accumulated knowledge and wisdom expressed in these monuments. These monuments, to me, are the end of something, not the beginning of something. To me, this almost impossible engineering feat conveys one clear message. Speaking to us across the gulf of ages, what the ancients are saying is we were not fools, and we weren't simpletons dancing after superstitious priests. We will show you our knowledge and precision. We did nothing by chance. Take us seriously.